Hey, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm super excited that I have Sara Stadtmiller and Gary Mellon with me today. And I know Sara from working together. She is a photographer. She does beautiful photos that are capturing light, and especially her portraits are amazing too. But she also does commercial photos and wedding photography, and she shot an amazing the wedding of close friends actually too. So we had some time together. And then Gary, her husband, I follow him for a while. He is everything. He's a wood sculptor, a clothier, a toy maker. His sculptures are just like outerworldly. Like I can't even like say it's like I don't know. Some of them are so filigrane and so intricate. Some are moving. It's just unbelievable. I love that so much. And then he makes these like really cool pants too. So yeah, welcome guys. How are you?
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Natalie. We're really happy to be here with you.
So is that Sara? Tell us a little bit about your photography work.
Well, I have my own business. I've been a wedding and commercial photographer for probably a decade and a half now. I went to school for it. I went to school for fine art, focusing on photography. And this, one thing led to another, and here I am shooting weddings and portraits mostly, and some commercial stuff, and sometimes that commercial stuff is also portraits, which is how we met. I had a small little studio, little office space for about 7 years, and then that got turned into condos, and we all got the boot. So I just happened upon this space I am now occupying. That's a beautiful storefront with 2 corner windows right in the downtown area of Asbury Park. And I just signed a lease on January 1st, and it was a big leap of faith for me to take that commitment, and then 2.5 months later, nothing's happening. So then that's how I ended up coming up with this idea to do a gallery show in the windows, and getting a bunch of local artist friends, and to do I think I'm kind of leaping.
That's okay. We will get back to that. So you have that. You have that studio space, and I assume like people can usually come there, and you take like portrait photos in there, and right.
It's like it's like a showroom more than anything else. It's just a box, and 2 of the windows are 2 of the walls are windows. But so I'm able to showcase a bunch of work, but I'm also able to do portraits in there. It's slightly larger than my last space, which I could squeeze a headshot into, but this one is gives me a lot more freedom. But it's also just a nice, great visibility, and I can meet with potential clients there, and really have something that I'm proud of to sit in and with, and to show them. So that's been amazing up until this.
So before I got to Gary, what was so you guys also have 2 children?
Just one.
Oh, how do I think you had 2? Well, I just gave you the one.
Nope.
Damn. Sorry about that.
She's over there snacking, and she's she'll be 4 next month. So between between both of us trying to do our own work and hanging out with her, and it's there's been no real downtime.
No, I bet. So how was it before with before COVID-19? What would be like? I assume like during the week you're probably mostly busy with the studio work, and then on the weekends you would travel a lot or shoot weddings, right? Especially in the warmer months. So, and where did you have like a daycare, you two, or?
Luna's actually this year. The town we're in, Neptune, has a pre-K program for 3 and 4-year-olds. So she's in school full time. So 9 to 3 essentially. So that's been amazing. Last year she was in daycare, but it wasn't full time, so that it would be like half a day mostly. So just trying to balance the work. But even 3 o'clock comes pretty quick. So, but I try to cram as much as I can in between then and then. He Gary actually works in the city, works in Brooklyn 4 days a week, and he stays over at least a couple of those nights usually.
Yeah.
So he'll be gone essentially from Monday at 5 a.m. till Thursday night at like 9 p.m. So, but on those days, me and Loon are kind of on our own, and but I have a lot of family close by. My sister just lives a few blocks away. My mother is 20 minutes away. So if I have to do meetings or shoots like later in the day, there's people around to, for the most part, juggle and help with Luna. And then, weekends when he's here, we kind of like trade off a little bit and
kind of like what we do now.
Yeah.
So Gary, so Sara said that you work in Brooklyn. Tell us a little bit about what your usual day and what you do usually before COVID, although you said it's almost the same, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big big division between the days that I'm in the city. I work for another artist in his studio, and so I'll work like 10-hour days there, and then I stay there, and I'll just bring projects with me, like sewing stuff. I can cut, it's an easy one to travel with. Mm-hmm. So I'll head up there, and so I've got like this night alone by myself. So that's like the weekdays mostly, and then Friday through Sunday is like, like I said, that's the part that's kind of like what we're doing now is we just kind of trade off. Fridays, I mean, she used to be in school on Friday, so then I would we both have kind of this whole Friday, mm-hmm. Work, but anyhow, but then in any case, on the weekends, Friday through Sunday, we would, we just kind of, just.
Both of our schedules are so, with mine, unless it's a wedding, a lot of my work comes up like real last minute, and we generally just have to be pretty fluid, and that's been true for this past 6 weeks. So there's Gary actually suggested recently that we like kind of divide up the day and figure out like how to maximize productivity, but it's just not really a realistic way to construct our day right now, because just the cold water therapy club, like their meeting time changes, and that's something like we all want to do, and so we're just keeping it.
So Gary, when you're so now that you're not working for the other artist, mm-hmm. You have more time to work on your own projects, right?
Yeah.
Has that been easy for you to kind of like, finally I have this time to use all this time for my creativity, or has that been a little bit difficult in the beginning because you had to transition into this a little bit?
No, I always have a backlog. I have a long backlog of projects in my head to do, so there's like, I've gotten better as I've gotten older, like finishing things. And so I always have a couple things going, but I'm able to kind of knock them out and then go to the next thing. So that's, that wasn't a problem. And then the weekends were kind of like what we're doing now anyway. So it was like a similar like schedule, just I definitely have more time for sure.
And just to speak to Gary for a second, like there's no lack of motivation, or like he's definitely will light the fire under anybody's butt, like just as living by example, because all he ever wants to do is work, like make his own work. That's all he wants to do, always. I don't think there's ever been a time where I've seen you like, I can't get myself out there or what. That's
do
just
you
not
feel that's like because it's something that a lot of artists or hobby artists talk about is like, but I don't feel it inspired. Are you just so creative because, you know, you have all these ideas, or is it because you know that when you just work and show up, that's how things are happening?
Both. But also, momentum, you know, just begets, I mean, you know, so that's the other side of it, you know, is the more you do it, the more, you know, keeps going. And I think that's like, finally, you know, it used to really torment me, the idea, this idea, but until I came to the realization that every artist, like the most, you know, a tough thing is that, like, you know, whether you live, you know, like a monk and live to be 100 and just do only that, you know, your artwork, you know, and you're allotted a lot of time in life, or you have a family and whatever, you have a little bit of time. In either case, you'll never get everything done. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody will die. Every artist will die with, like, having only had a fraction of what they've ever conceived of, put out, you know. And so, anyhow, so with that, like it's like it'll never be finished, but nonetheless, like, you got to do as much as you can.
That's actually a really good thought to keep in mind, like, because it then tells you it doesn't matter. You just do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, don't get, like, upset with. It's like the same when you're like, oh, this is never. I can't let go of that one piece. I don't know it. It's never done. And then you're like, well, you just move on. Like, move on and do the next thing, right?
I don't know. Last year, I worked for about a year. I worked part-time also for a friend that was running a scenic carpentry shop. Mm-hmm. And I'd work, I don't know, a couple days a week there. And that was that was a really great learning experience, because it was the first time. The strength of something is, you know, often its weakness. And I think one of the strengths of art school, having, you know, receiving an art education, you know, is, you know, the also its weakness in that, like, you're kind of only taught to please yourself in art school, you know. And I think that's why people obsess over these, you know, points of process, and, you know, and why, you know, artworks never are finished, even if you finish them. And you know, and that's great that there's a place that, you know, if that's the kind of person you are, you get to spend some years really diving deep and whatever. But you come out only, like I said, you've only kind of learned to please yourself. And this prop shop, there's all these creative people working for clients who, it doesn't matter how you feel about it, you have to finish it. You know, just like get it out.
Right.
And that was a really great, I don't know, little education for like a year. Discipline. Yeah, that's a better word for it, is discipline. Like, remove yourself out of it sometimes, you know, and like.
That's interesting. I do feel like you're faster now.
Yeah. And the world will never know what you thought and didn't make.
Right, exactly.
And they'll never know the artistic decisions you didn't make. So it's not like they're going to be like, oh, this is lacking these things. You know, you're the only one who knows it.
Have you worked before that? Because I want to get into this. You do this really cool project right now, which I want to talk about. But it's called Outside Looking In. It's a quarantine gallery. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, what it is?
Sure. Yeah, this came from, you know, going to my studio a couple weeks into the quarantine, and just looking around. I just really love the space, and just being kind of sad that it's not getting any use, or any just sitting empty. And since, you know, the first thing that happened once the quarantine came, once my work dried up, is that I started to be able to make my own work, which Gary built me this dark room. I've had it for months, but still not been able to, like, fully utilize it, because the stuff that pays the bills always takes priority, and there's always more editing to do and more emailing to do. You know, like, there's always, and also to get into the dark room, I need a large chunk of time to, like, you can't just go in for an hour, like, it's just a waste of chemistry and blah blah blah. You know, so all of a sudden I had all this time, and also I had new work to work on down there. I like immediately started the first week of the quarantine, but he was still, and before New York got like shut down, he was still in New York. So the first week was just me and Luna. And so I started photographing her with a large format camera, and and then just had this idea of like photographing other whatever was like social distance visitors and that kind of thing. So so my actually first thought was pretty selfish. I thought that I'm like, oh, maybe I should be hanging this new personal work. I mean, my walls are just covered in weddings and commercial portraits, family portraits and things like that. So my first thought was to just use it for me. But then, I don't have enough of that, obviously. And then it just instantly jumped to like, oh, what if I had a group show and, kind of put some thought into, that it would give. I knew a lot of our artist friends were all using this time. Like a lot of people were making work, so there'd be new work to show. Also, most of my artist friends don't have real jobs and are lacking income at the moment. So that would be possibly a good way for not to make. I mean, everything's priced pretty quarantine prices, so it's like not going to make anybody rich, but at least it would support them in some way. And also just to give like that was another inspirational thought was that the reason I had gone over to the studio in the first place is because I remembered that I had live flowers in the window and I knew that they must be dying if not dead. So all I could think about was like, I'm just making this town even sadder, like people walking by and just seeing dead flowers. So this was like, my thought was like a way to do the exact opposite of that too. It's just to like give some people that are walking by, people that do live in the neighborhood. Asbury Park has been a destination for a long time, and the restaurants are still doing takeout, and there is reason to come into town still, but to just give add some beauty to the darkness.
So the way how it works though is that you do not go into the space. It's basically the gallery or the exhibition is in the windows, because
Yes.
as you said, it's like a corner studio. So you have these like two big window fronts, and you utilize that space in the window front so that people can social distance in front of the gallery or your studio space, and then see it from and that's why it's called like outside looking in, right? So you brought the gallery, the exhibition, to the outside world, which is brilliant, actually. If you think about it, like it's like okay. And you beautify, and I love that you said that you were thinking about like beautifying, that space instead of having these, because I feel that's the saddest thing too. Like when you walk around here in the city, you have all these like storefronts and windows boarded up or locked up, and it gives like an extra feeling of the eeriness and isolation and something really daunting. And I feel like that's such a wonderful idea, having something where you actually you stop and you look at something and the way you can respond to whatever is in that window with your feelings and thoughts. That's pretty amazing. So you both have your work in there too, and then you have a lot of friends invited.
There's actually about 30 artists in the show.
Wow.
And Gary's piece, the Rocking Goat, is
so cool.
He had been working on that, already, but it was great that it was like as soon as it was.
Like, do you now, like, I mean, I am assuming you're not all the time, around looking at people looking at the gallery, but
we're not there. We only go there to like put a little sold sign on something, or to like just to make sure. That was one of the big concerns was setting up the show. I knew it couldn't be like when I was asking artists to exhibit, I knew that they were like not going to be able to get to a framer, or so it's like works on paper, hanging on a string. It's pretty informal, but except for there's some 3D work that is lines. There's a window height shelf that runs, so one of the things I had to tell the artists was I was asking for submissions for work was like, the windows face south and east. So We get a lot of sun, so like consider like a UV coating or just not caring because things are temporary and, like I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know how long the show will be up till the end of the quarantine. So maybe that's another week or two or maybe longer. I don't know. So that was another thing we've been going over to check on artwork, but we did find a way to, with just using clips, just clipping like the flat stuff that was starting to curl a little bit, just clipping it to a board and not mounting anything. But that seemed to really solve that.
So did you hear that people are stopping and like looking at things?
Yeah, we have been. So sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, I'm getting tagged on like Instagram stories all the time. People are there looking and taking pictures, mostly in front of the goat, and yeah, people couldn't be happier. The artists, like everybody's so excited to be a part of it, and like I've gotten such good feedback, and just people are taking a trip to, I've gotten some really heartfelt, emotional responses to it. It's been pretty wonderful. More so, for me, the biggest motivation was just like needing something to focus on more than like trying to fill out unemployment and TV loans and like I need something. I need this. So it's been amazing.
Do you bounce off ideas of each other when you're like thinking about,
Yeah, it's like not really.
We talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Not so. I mean, just general conversation.
Yeah. I think that Gary will come in from the garage with the work in progress, and we'll talk about stuff that's working or not. The rocking goat actually is way safer than I think either one of us really anticipated it being.
Yeah.
Luna's like loves it actually. Every time we go to the studio, she wants to get on it, and we're both okay with like her being on it. And
it ended up being a lot safer than I thought. There were just certain things I didn't in the design of that kind of toy that it just didn't occur to me until I got making it, and then halfway through, I was like, oh, this is, there's a lot of like jabbing danger or potentially, because it's heavy and it rocks. And so, but anyhow, I just went ahead with it. And it's like, if it's too dangerous for kids, it's just going to be just in the form of a rocking goat. And, but yeah, it ended up being pretty safe, I think. Yeah.
And it's like one of those things you have to remember. We are in America, so.
I know. Yeah.
Is it safe?
Yeah. But Gary's very supportive. I mean, he's like maybe not. We don't collaborate, but we definitely like support each other and try to give each other the space and time to work. I mean, he built the dark room because he wants me to be able to work on my own stuff, And I think like when we met, we met a million years ago, but when we started dating in 2010, I was doing a lot of my own personal work, in conjunction with professional, but then like trying to do personal work, professional work, and be a mom was like, at least when she was really little, was near impossible. So that really took the back burner for a long time, and it was like hurting my soul a lot. And so Gary, did everything he could to make sure that I had the opportunity to get back to work.
There's nothing more precious than having a partner supporting your creative work. Do you think you're like, because Gary said he's just like doing his thing. Like, do you not had any like, so you don't have that headspace taken? Like, that's amazing. I want that.
Yeah, to be Gary is is something.
Do you understand when people struggle with that? No, to put you on the spot. That is a weird question. Maybe the way how I asked that, but like, is that something where you like, don't not say get over it, but you're like, is there something that you can say from your experience that helps maybe others to kind of like not have that taken over too much?
I feel like, there's I'm a firm believer that like nothing of any value has been created that is not out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And so, if you have, like, I'm not so sure. I don't know that. I go back and forth in my head. I don't know that I believe in. I'm not calling this laziness, but I don't know that I believe in, like, I don't know. If you need to make something or do, like you're gonna do it, and maybe it doesn't need to be. You know what I mean? Maybe you know what I mean. The time you don't do it, then obviously there isn't enough. Maybe it doesn't need to be made. The stuff that you don't make. You know, if you're like, so I don't know, like, I don't know that there's any way, you're going to make what you're motivated to make. Sometimes you have to like forget what you're telling yourself and look at your actions and like, maybe I'm right where I want to be, even if there's a different story going in my head, or like your actions, what you end up doing is such a truer record of what your real motivation is and what you tell yourself, what your internal monologue is. Forget about the story you're telling you that you think you should be working.
Right.
You're not. And that's fun. That's your actions are such a truer indicator of where what's going on and what you need, who you are. But that said, the other side would be, and I've had to tell myself this, and especially with Luna, we like as artists, creativity is our thing, but it's like, and I had to put this question to myself, like, if you're so creative, like, get creative about making time, get creative about like, you like, don't just apply it to, the artwork, but apply it to like, it eventually started sounding like, oh, if I only had more time, or only, like, it's just like, if I think I'm so creative, then get creative about how to do it. And for that matter, like making money too, like it's taken me years to figure out how to move, just like, it's taken me years to figure out how to make a tiny amount of money out of stuff, out of ideas that I think of and things that I make. And I've had to like rethink it, and again, that was another place to apply creativity. Like, if you're, it's a crazy, and like, it's the dumbest business model to think that you're going to make something and put it out there, something the world has never seen, a product that the world has never seen, and therefore doesn't know they need.
Yes.
And maybe you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just the fact that like people are going to want it and pay for it.
Over and over and over again.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Right.
And then, not to mention, like, it's also like highly inefficient to like make one little thing, all this energy, sell it, and then reinvent the wheel every time.
Right.
So even to just get a little bit of financial, to make a little bit of money out of my artwork, I've had to just rethink how to do it. And like, that's another place where I was like, okay, if you think you're so creative, like, apply it to that too. Like, don't just, like, you're gonna put all your creativity into making it work and then just proclaim like helplessness in every other realm of your life. Like,
you have a very wise husband, but you're very wise too. I thank you guys so much for your time, but I wanna know, like, okay, so where do we find your studio, and where do we find your work, and purchase it or help, in any way we can?
The gallery is at 701 Bangs Ave in Asbury, but I have a virtual version of it on my blog too. My professional website is srsphotographer.com, and if you just go to the blog, it's the first thing on there. And both of us have been putting our
Yeah.
personal work on Instagram, which mine is just my personal one is just my name, Sara Stadtmiller, and his is G.A. Mellon, Mellon.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. Thank you guys for your time.
Yeah.
I
Thank
found
you,
that
Natalie.
super
Thank you so
interesting.
much. Yeah.
Lots of stuff to chew on, too. I guess I got to get creative with my time now.